The glass walls of the executive boardroom reflected the skyline of San Francisco. 42 floors above the city, inside the headquarters of Neurodyne Systems, the future of artificial intelligence was being discussed. At the head of the table sat Ethan Caldwell, 48 years old, MIT graduate, Forbes Top 40 Under 40 twice. CEO of one of Silicon Valley's fastest-growing AI infrastructure firms. His voice carried the confidence of a man who had never been publicly wrong. On the wall-sized screen behind him glowed the words, Global AI Accelerator Finalists. Neurodyne had opened its doors to developers worldwide. 10 finalists would pitch. One would receive a $20 million integration contract. Ethan leaned back. Next submission, he said. The screen changed. Miguel Alvarez, Manila, Philippines. A faint smirk crossed Ethan's face. Let me guess, he said casually. Another outsourced optimization patch. A few executives chuckled. He skimmed the summary. Voice Adaptive AI Framework, built for multilingual cognitive recognition, accent-resilient modeling. He paused. Accent-resilient? He repeated, amused. Does that mean it works, despite the accent? More laughter. He clicked open Miguel's short demo video. Miguel appeared on screen, simple background, neutral tone, but his English carried a noticeable Filipino cadence. 30 seconds in, Ethan muted it. I can barely focus on the pitch, he said. If the product is as unclear as the presentation. He didn't finish the sentence. Rejected, he said flatly. No code review, no deeper analysis, just assumption. 7,000 miles away in Manila, Miguel Alvarez stared at the rejection email glowing on his aging laptop screen. Outside, the late afternoon traffic hummed, jeepneys rattling past, vendors calling out, tricycles weaving through narrow streets. Inside the apartment, it was quiet except for the slow rotation of a single electric fan, pushing warm air in tired circles. The email was brief, polite, generic, corporate. After careful review, we regret to inform you. Miguel read it once, then again. There was no feedback, no technical critique, no suggestion for improvement, just a door closing. He had expected rejection. Neurodyne was a Silicon Valley giant. Companies like that didn't usually call back unknown engineers from Southeast Asia. But what he hadn't expected was the second message. A friend from an online AI forum had sent it with no caption, just a file attachment. boardroom_clip.mp4. Miguel hesitated before pressing play. The video was shaky, clearly recorded on someone's phone. The camera pointed toward a massive glass-walled conference room high above San Francisco. Men and women in tailored suits sat around a polished table. A large screen displayed his name. Miguel Alvarez, Manila, Philippines. He watched as Neurodyne Systems' CEO leaned back in his chair, scrolling through the proposal. Then came the line. Casual, effortless, sharp. Does that mean it works? Despite the accent? Laughter followed. Not loud, not cruel, but enough. Miguel felt something tighten in his chest. The CEO muted the demo before Miguel had finished speaking in the video. Rejected. Just like that. The clip ended. Miguel replayed it. Once, twice. The second time, he didn't watch the screen. He just listened to the tone, the rhythm of dismissal, the way the decision had already been made before the code was even mentioned. After a long moment, he closed the laptop slowly. The fan continued spinning. Across the small dining table, scratched wood, one uneven leg supported by folded cardboard, sat his younger sister, Sophia. Her nursing textbooks were stacked beside a chipped ceramic mug. She had been pretending not to watch him. They didn't even test it, she asked softly. Miguel shook his head. No. He reached for the cheap USB microphone lying near the keyboard. The cable was slightly bent near the connector. He had bought it on sale 3 years ago, saving from 2 weeks of overtime pay. He turned it in his hands, studying it as if it had betrayed him. "They heard my accent," he said quietly. A pause. "They stopped listening." Sophia frowned. "But your system is built for that," she said. "For accents." Miguel let out a faint, humorless smile. "Exactly." He leaned back in his chair, staring at the ceiling where faint water stains mapped old, rainy seasons. He thought about the nights he had spent refining phoneme clusters, retraining models on regional speech patterns, manually correcting bias weights in the dataset. 4 years of work. Not dismissed because it failed. Dismissed because of how he sounded. Outside, a jeepney backfired loudly. Miguel inhaled slowly. Not anger, not humiliation, something heavier. Clarity. He opened the laptop again, not to reread the rejection but to open his code editor. If they stopped listening at his voice, then next time he would make the results so undeniable they wouldn't dare mute it. Miguel wasn't a prodigy. He didn't win math Olympiads. He didn't attend elite coding boot camps in California. He didn't have venture capital mentors on speed dial. He wasn't Stanford trained. He had never stepped foot inside Stanford University. He graduated from a public university in Quezon City. Overcrowded classrooms, outdated lab computers, professors juggling multiple jobs just to stay afloat. He learned machine learning the way many underestimated engineers do. At 2 a.m. on slow Wi-Fi, through open-source forums and free online lectures. He paused YouTube tutorials to take handwritten notes because printing was expensive. He read research papers he barely understood at first, then reread them until he did. He asked questions in GitHub threads where no one knew his nationality, only his logic. By day, he slept in short fragments. By night, he worked back-end maintenance for Australian startups, fixing database bottlenecks, patching server vulnerabilities, debugging API failures that other engineers didn't want to touch. The pay wasn't glamorous, but it was steady. And Miguel saved every peso. No new phone, no vacations, no unnecessary upgrades. Every extra hour of freelance work meant more cloud compute time. Every skipped luxury meant more GPU training cycles. For 4 years, he built his framework quietly. No press releases, no LinkedIn announcements, no startup pitch decks, just iteration after iteration. Failure logs, model retraining, bias audits. His idea, at its core, was simple. Most voice AI systems were trained primarily on American and British English. Their datasets were rich with Western accents, news anchors, scripted audio, and standardized pronunciation. Accent variance reduced recognition accuracy. The farther a speaker's cadence moved from standard English, the higher the error rate climbed, which meant something subtle but powerful. The Global South was underrepresented, not just socially but computationally. Entire populations were interacting with systems that quietly misunderstood them. Miguel saw it clearly. Voice AI didn't fail because accents were hard. It failed because accents weren't prioritized. So he built something different. Instead of forcing accents towards standard English, his model adapted in real time to the speaker. The first 20 seconds of speech became calibration. The system mapped rhythm, stress patterns, vowel elongation, consonant substitution, dynamically reshaping its probability matrix around the individual voice. It didn't penalize accent variation. It learned from it. If a speaker rolled their R's, it adjusted. If vowels softened, it recalibrated. If cadence sped up under stress, it compensated. Where most systems treated deviation as error, his treated it as data. He called it adaptive linguistic resonance modeling, a name technical enough for research papers, sophisticated enough for conferences. But to him, it was simpler. It was personal. It was built from every time someone asked him to slow down. Every time a client requested he neutralize his voice on calls. Every time automated systems forced him to repeat himself. To Miguel, it wasn't just code. It was correction. An AI that listens without bias, he would say quietly. Not louder, not smarter, just fairer. And he believed deeply that if technology was going to shape the future, then the future should understand everyone. 2 weeks after the rejection, an email arrived. It landed in Miguel's inbox at 1:17 a.m., buried between server alerts and freelance client updates. Subject line: World Cognitive AI Summit, Singapore. Global open call. He almost ignored it. Almost. But something about the words open call made him click. The page loaded slowly on his aging laptop. World Cognitive AI Summit, Singapore. Open competition. Live demos. Global broadcast. A gathering of founders, researchers, venture capitalists, and executives from the biggest AI companies in the world. Finalists would present on a live stage. Judges would evaluate in real time. The winning technology would receive international media coverage and partnership opportunities. Miguel scrolled further down. Sponsors. His eyes stopped. Neurodyne Systems, headline sponsor. Below that, keynote speaker, Ethan Caldwell. Miguel leaned back slowly. Of course, the same man who muted his demo halfway through, the same boardroom that laughed. He stared at the registration button. Entry fee, $850. He converted it in his head automatically. More than his monthly rent, more than 3 months of groceries, more than he had ever spent on a single decision. The fan above him creaked softly as it rotated. Outside, Manila's midnight sounds drifted through the window. Distant traffic, a dog barking, someone laughing in the alley below. He clicked into the registration form anyway. Name, country, project description, upload demo. He stopped at the payment page. His cursor hovered. His chest felt tight. The memory replayed. Does that mean it works, despite the accent? He imagined the stage. Bright lights, crowd of executives, the possibility of silence, or worse, polite applause. Sophia walked in quietly, carrying 2 cups of instant coffee. She noticed the tension immediately. What is it? She asked. He turned the screen toward her. She read it. Her eyes widened. Singapore. He nodded. They're sponsoring it, he said. She didn't need clarification. Do it, she said. He let out a small breath. It's not that simple. She set the coffee down. It never is. He looked back at the payment page. What if they laugh again? He asked quietly. Not defensive, not dramatic, just honest. What if I go there, and they hear me, speak, and it's the same story? Sophia studied him for a moment. Then she smiled, not dismissively but knowingly. Then make sure they finish listening this time. Silence hung between them. She pointed at the screen. Last time they judged the voice. She tapped his chest gently. This time, make them judge the results. Miguel looked at the numbers again. He thought about the overtime shifts, the savings account, the small safety net he had built carefully over years. He exhaled slowly. Then he reached for his wallet. Card number, expiration date, security code. Each digit felt heavier than the last. When the confirmation page appeared, registration complete, he didn't feel relief. He felt something sharper. Commitment. No more quiet submission portals. No more waiting for unseen reviewers. If they were going to reject him again, they would have to do it while looking him in the eye. Late nights. The fan spun endlessly in the thick, humid air of Manila, pushing warmth from one corner of the small apartment to the other, but never quite cooling it. The city never fully slept. Somewhere below, a tricycle engine coughed. A karaoke machine echoed faintly from another building. A stray dog barked at nothing in particular. Miguel barely noticed. His world had narrowed to lines of code glowing against a dark screen. Code rewriting, function restructuring, model retraining, dataset expansion. He stripped the framework down to its bones and rebuilt it layer by layer. If he was going to stand on a global stage, it couldn't just work. It had to outperform. But performance required data, and data required voices. So Miguel went outside. He brought a small recorder and a notebook. He spoke with jeepney drivers waiting at terminals, their speech fast and rhythmic, words blending together like rolling wheels on pavement. He asked public school teachers to read paragraphs naturally, letting their cadence rise and fall the way it did in real classrooms. He recorded nurses during break hours, exhaustion softening their consonants. He visited call center agents who had mastered neutral accents by day and slipped back into their natural tones at night. Different accents, different emotional tones, different speeds, different inflections shaped by region, class, education, and fatigue. Some spoke in crisp English, some blended Tagalog and English mid-sentence, some stretched vowels, some clipped syllables sharply. Miguel fed it all into the model, not to smooth it out, not to standardize it, but to understand it. Back at his desk, he refined the architecture. He added dynamic weighting for stress patterns, recognizing how emphasis shifted meaning in Filipino speech. He mapped rhythm variations, the musical pacing that traditional Western datasets often misclassified as irregular. He trained the system to recognize cultural phrasing markers, indirect expressions, softened requests, humor wrapped in understatement. Most voice systems treated deviations as noise. Miguel treated them as structure. He ran simulation after simulation, measured error rates, tracked improvements, adjusted probability thresholds. Each 0.2% increase in accuracy felt like a quiet victory. Sometimes the system failed. Sometimes accuracy dipped unexpectedly. He didn't panic. He studied the failure logs like a detective studies clues. Why did it misclassify that syllable? Why did confidence drop when emotion rose? Slowly, gradually, the error bars tightened. The system adapted faster, calibrated quicker, understood deeper. Miguel wasn't trying to sound American. He wasn't trying to win approval by mimicry. He wasn't building a tool that rewarded conformity. He was building one that respected authenticity. He didn't want the world to erase accents. He wanted technology to understand them. He wasn't chasing neutrality. He was chasing accuracy. And accuracy, he believed, was a form of fairness. The summit hall shimmered with LED panels, light reflecting off polished floors like a digital sunrise. Rows of cameras lined the back wall. Massive projection screens curved above the stage. Every seat in the auditorium was filled. Executives from Google, Microsoft, Neurodyne Systems sat in the front rows, badges glinting under the lights. Investors leaned forward. Engineers whispered predictions. Journalists typed pre-written headlines, waiting to see which startup would break through. Miguel stood just behind the curtain, holding a small black clicker in his right hand. He could feel his heartbeat, not racing, not trembling, just present, a reminder that this moment was real. The announcer's voice echoed across the hall. Next presenter, Miguel Alvarez, Manila, Philippines. A flicker of movement in the audience, some curious glances, some indifferent expressions. Miguel stepped onto the stage wearing a modest grey suit, pressed carefully the night before. It wasn't designer, it wasn't custom-tailored, but it was his best. The lights were bright, warmer than he expected. He placed his laptop on the podium and connected it to the display cable himself. No assistant, no team, just him. Hands steady, voice calm. "Good afternoon," he began. His accent was unmistakable, Filipino, rhythmic, warm. "My name is Miguel Alvarez. I'm from the Philippines." A pause, not for effect, for control. He scanned the audience briefly, some faces neutral, some skeptical, one or two already glancing at their phones. He continued. "For decades, voice AI has improved, but mostly for one type of voice." The statement lingered in the air. He clicked his remote. On screen appeared, Global Voice Recognition Accuracy. By accent, a world map illuminated in gradient colors. North America and parts of Western Europe glowed deep green, 96% to 99% accuracy. Sections of Southeast Asia, Africa, and South America hovered in yellow and orange, 78% to 88%. A quiet murmur rippled through the room. Miguel spoke again. When a system misunderstands someone once, it's an inconvenience. He clicked. The map zoomed in. Error rate charts expanded. When it misunderstands millions, it becomes exclusion. Another click. The screen transitioned. Live accent stress test. 4 microphones stood at the edge of the stage. Miguel looked toward the audience. "I'd like 4 volunteers," he said. Different backgrounds, different accents. There was hesitation, then movement. A Nigerian AI researcher, a Korean data scientist, an Indian startup founder, an Australian venture capitalist. They stepped forward. Miguel gestured to the screen. "First," he said, "we'll test with a standard baseline model." He named it carefully, without drama. Neurodyne's flagship voice engine, a flicker in the front row. Ethan Caldwell sat motionless. The first volunteer spoke. The transcript appeared on screen. 2 misclassified words. Confidence score, 84%. The second volunteer spoke faster. 4 errors. Confidence dropped to 79%. A few uncomfortable shifts in seats. Miguel nodded politely. "Now," he said, "my model." The Nigerian researcher spoke again. This time, the transcript flowed smoothly. No red highlights. Confidence score, 97.9%. A soft intake of breath from somewhere near the center row. The Korean engineer tested complex technical phrasing, 98.6%. The Indian founder layered speed and slang, 97.4%. The Australian investor exaggerated vowel sounds playfully, 99.1%. The metrics weren't just marginally better, they were decisive. Miguel stepped slightly forward. "The first 15 seconds of speech," he explained, "allow my system to recalibrate phonetic weighting dynamically." Graphs animated behind him, showing real-time adaptation curves. It doesn't force speech toward a standard. Another click. It adjusts the standard towards the speaker. Silence. Not the distracted kind, the attentive kind. Miguel let the numbers sit. Then he spoke more softly. Accent is not a flaw in communication. A beat. It's identity. The words didn't echo dramatically. They settled. Somewhere in the front row, Ethan Caldwell leaned forward, no longer relaxed, no longer amused. This time, no one muted the demo. He invited volunteers from the audience, a Nigerian developer, a Korean engineer, an Indian founder, an Australian investor. Each spoke into the mic. Neurodyne's baseline model struggled with variations. Miguel's system processed in real time. Accuracy metrics flashed live. 98.4%, 99.1%, 97.8%. Whispers spread. Ethan leaned forward. Miguel turned slightly toward the audience. "Accent is not an error," he said calmly. "It's identity." Silence. After the demo, judges requested technical verification. Ethan entered the review room. Miguel recognized him instantly. No anger, just focus. For 2 hours, Ethan dissected the architecture. Adaptive weighting layers, phoneme context remapping, self-correcting bias, compensation loops. Elegant, efficient, original. Ethan sat back. "How many engineers?" he asked. "Just me," Miguel replied. "Funding? My salary." Walked around the table, extended his hand. "I was wrong." No cameras, no microphones, just 2 engineers. Miguel won first place. Global headlines followed. Filipino engineer builds accent-neutral AI that outperforms Silicon Valley. Clips of Ethan's earlier dismissal resurfaced. Public commentary exploded. But something unexpected happened. Ethan requested stage time before his keynote. Under bright stage lights, Ethan addressed thousands. 3 months ago, he began. I rejected a proposal because I judged the speaker before the solution. He paused. I confused familiarity with superiority. The crowd shifted. I built companies claiming AI should remove human bias, yet I allowed my own bias to interfere with innovation. He gestured toward Miguel. Talent is evenly distributed. Recognition is not. The clip went viral. Millions of views, shared across tech communities, across Filipino social media, across startup forums. Weeks later, Ethan flew to Manila, not to acquire, not to dominate, to propose partnership. Neurodyne would integrate Miguel's system globally. Miguel would retain leadership and build a Philippine-based research hub. Deal value, $25 million. But the real value was symbolic. Miguel's company, Linguarize AI, employed 300 engineers in Manila, Cebu, and Davao. Their systems powered global voice platforms. Call centers reported 40% accuracy improvements. At a tech conference in California, Miguel stood at the podium. He spoke in his natural Filipino accent, unmodified, unapologetic. No voice should have to change to be understood. The audience stood. Applause thundered. Miguel kept the original rejection email, not as bitterness, but as fuel. Emerging market. Accessibility surged, because here's the truth. Gatekeepers don't control innovation. They control doors. And when doors close, builders create entrances. The future of AI will not belong to the loudest voice. It will belong to the most inclusive listener. And somewhere tonight, in an apartment in Manila, another engineer is coding, not to erase their accent, but to teach the world to understand it. Fade to black.